bit before I ask you to pop something up. So
this meeting is being recorded.
All right, very good. Well, thank you so much for joining today. I know there's other things you could have chosen to do with your time, but I'm just grateful that you've chosen this. I hope in the next 20, 25 minutes or so, whatever I share, you can just apply it to your life, no matter what kind of journey you're on in your health. A little bit more about me and why I have a passion for helping people with their health is I have been a nurse for about 10 years, but no matter what part of healthcare I have been in, it just hasn't set right with me. I worked in the nursing home. I worked in healthcare in the hospital in the med surg department. I do in-home nursing. And there's just a routine pattern that I see of the healthcare having some gaps. And that's where I like to fill in the gaps of just educating people on nutrition and what a major impact that can have on their health. A little bit about my story. About 10 years ago, I was in my mid-20s and I had 2 children. And I would tell you that I was a sugar addict. I was surviving on sugar to make it through my day. And the more I fed myself with sugar, the more I was tired and the more I had aches and pains. I had some Achilles tendon issues that I was receiving lots of physical therapy for. And these aches and pains, no one could really figure it out. And I was very close to having a label of fibromyalgia. And I just knew this wasn't right. I knew that I was in my 20s and I should be just feeling wonderful, but I wasn't. And not one doctor asked me what I was eating on a daily basis. Not one physician said, hey, like, let's look at your daily intake of food. Because if they had, and I really stopped and looked, I was constantly, from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to bed, I was on sugar. And it wasn't until a friend came to me and said, hey, let's look at your diet. Let's look at what whole food nutrition is. And at the time, I hadn't even heard what that was. But I was intrigued and I was desperate. I was looking for a solution. And the more I fed my body with good whole food nutrition, the less I ached, the better my Achilles tendons felt. In the morning, it didn't happen instantly, obviously, but over a course of time, I was no longer hobbling out of bed. And I felt better. So that's where this all came from, is about 10 years ago. So the last 2 years, I've really focused on helping people one-on-one with whole foods, feeling better, tying in that connection of what foods can do in their illnesses that they might be battling, or just as a preventative way. So I know that Dana had handed out some handouts, and we'll go briefly over this sugar quiz. It's just a little fun thing. If you didn't have a chance to look at it, it's no big deal, but it just kind of gets our mind thinking of how things have changed over the course of time and how sugar is really a huge part of our daily intake. And this was just a little outline. If you want to take some notes today, you can use this little outline I created. But the other one is the sugar quiz.
Shoot, that's the one I thought I had up. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
Okay, there we go.
All right, wonderful. And we have this little lovely chat button too. If you want to just kind of make it so I'm not talking to myself, that would be awesome. If you want to throw in your guesses there, you can, but we'll just kind of go along with the quiz. Okay, so the first question, I'm just going to read it. In 1920, the average American consumed about 5 pounds of sugar a year. How many pounds per year was the average consumption in 2012? So how many pounds per year does anybody think in 2012 the average American consumed? Any guesses? 150. Okay, somebody's got a guess out there. 20, 200. Okay, I'm loving all these guesses. All right, 12. All right, so it was actually 100 pounds, 100 pounds right there. Pretty incredible to think of that huge jump in that amount of time. Second question there, how much sugar does the average American child consume in a week? In a week, looking at how much sugar in a child. And we have to remember, if we look at things, sugar is in just about everything. And I'm seeing the guesses come in, and you guys are right. It is about 5 pounds. How much sugar does the average American adult consume in a week? That's the next question there. How much do us as adults Okay, 3.5, somewhere around there. It is 3 pounds. 3 pounds is what we're going with there. The American Heart Association recommends we consume no more than this many teaspoons of sugar in a day. How much would you guys guess? 4 teaspoons, 9.5 teaspoons, or 11 teaspoons? American Heart Association. All right, yes, I would say 4. Very good. I'm going to go with the first guesses there. Which has more sugar, a 20-ounce Coke or a yogurt smoothie? Anybody want to guess on that? A 20-ounce Coke or a yogurt smoothie? Depends on the yogurt. I like that. So that's part of my response on that. It does depend on the brand, but a smoothie can have just as much sugar as a Coke. So you have to be really, really careful on what you're putting into your smoothies. So yes, depends on the brand. Which has more sugar, a Snickers bar or an 8-ounce fruit yogurt? Let's see here. Anybody want to guess on the Snickers or the 8-ounce fruit yogurt? Somebody says Snickers, and nobody's Googling the answers. So the Snickers bar, it has 7.5 teaspoons of sugar, and versus an 8-ounce fruit yogurt has 10 teaspoons. So in that response, the yogurt actually had more. And again, probably depends on the brand, but just being careful that yogurt can be a hidden form of sugar. How many babies born in our generation will become diabetic before adulthood? 1 in 10, 1 in 5, or 1 in 3? Anybody have a guess on that? Diabetic before adulthood. Okay, somebody says 1 in 5, 1 in 3. Some more guesses, 1 in 5. It's actually 1 in 3. 1 in 3. And then the end, a high intake of sugar increases the risk for which of the following diseases? We have heart attack, cancer, diabetes, stroke, and degenerative brain diseases. What do you guys think on that? Very good. Donna Jo guessed it. It is all of them. Yep. Sugar can impact all of those. So that leads me to my next thing, and you can follow along in your handout. Why is it important to kick these cravings? So that's kind of where I lead into, is the facts that really our nation is not a very healthy nation. I'm sure we can all agree with that, even prior to COVID. But statistically, we are one of the obese nations. Right now, I believe 42% of Americans are obese. And even what really hurts my heart is about 22% of children are ranked obese right now. Along with obesity, it brings so many diseases. So we're looking at heart disease. Our heart is having to pump harder and faster, blood pressure, high cholesterol, anxiety, depression, risk of stroke. There's all sorts of things that come along with that. And right now, the pandemic, they're already showing that in the last 2 years that they're showing an increase in the BMI of ages 2 to 19. So your body mass index, they're showing that it has doubled in those children. And when you think about it, circumstantially, that makes sense, right? We weren't really going out, moving a whole lot. Hopefully that's going to change, but it's the food. We look at what is the overall consuming factor. What can we all relate with? And it's the food that we're consuming. We live in a really fast-paced, busy lifestyle. As a mom of 5 boys, I get that. I'm not here to judge. You will see me every once in a while go through a drive-through. You will, but it's our portion sizes. It's the things that are allowed in our food, where in other countries it's not allowed in. And we just have to be so mindful of, even when we think we are being healthy or conservative, sugar is just being hidden in everything. Dana, if you want to go ahead and put that image up of the spaghetti sauce and yogurt, just so as a visual, I would encourage you, when you get home tonight, just go ahead and check out some of your main labels that you think maybe that you use on a routine basis. This is just one simple thing that I look at. Prego is a very popular spaghetti sauce. It was at one time in our household, but sugar obviously is very dominant in that. Yogurt, Yoplait is another big one. And we just have to look at what is in our labels, how much sugar are we consuming, and is it really worth it to be consuming these things when we know what sugar has an impact on? So along with that, we've talked about obesity, we've talked about the things that come along with that, but I really feel like there is a dependence on sugar. It releases a neurochemical change in our body that is a feel good, right? It releases like a feel good hormone that's almost as addictive as a drug or alcohol. We keep coming back for more at that 3 or 4 o'clock mark. Oh, I just need that piece of chocolate. Or maybe it's after a big meal at night and you know you've ate a lot, but you're still craving something sweet. And it's because our body is out of balance. And maybe you're not a sugar person, but maybe it's salt for you. You know, it doesn't always have to be sugar. I just more focus on sugar because it hit home to me. But sugar, not only does it have an impact on all of these diseases, but it decreases our ability to fight off illness. We look at the time of Halloween all the way to February. Those are our sickest months here in the Midwest. But I would not only tell you that, yes, we're all indoors, and that's another reason why, but you think about the sugar consumption and all of those sugary sweets that you consume from Halloween and Christmas and Thanksgiving and all the holidays, and then you have New Year's and New Year's Day, and then Valentine's Day. It's all sugar. It's all sugar, and it decreases our ability for our white blood cells to actually attack when they need to be attacking. So that's the huge thing. Moving on to sugar and salt cravings. Why do we have these, and what's so important? So about that. Our body is off balance. Our body is craving these things because our second brain in our body is off balance. And I just want to get some feedback from you guys, what you feel like the second brain is, if you've ever heard this term before. What organ in our body is our second brain? Any guesses? Yep, you guys got it. Yep, it is our gut. You're right. It's our second brain, and we have the vagus nerve that goes all the way from our brain all the way down our spinal cord into the gut area, and it's all connected. And I think back to when I was little, and I had a test the next morning and my stomach was just in knots. Or you just got news of something and you say to somebody, I just feel sick over this news that I've received. Well, there's a direct correlation with our mind, with our stomach. What we're feeding our stomach directly impacts our brain, and vice versa. So it's kind of like, the easiest way to put it is, it's the good guys versus the bad guys. We have the good guys saying, like, feed me some fruits and vegetables. That sounds really good right now. And then we have the bad guys saying, no, I want that piece of chocolate at the end of the day, or I'm craving a whole bag of chips right now. So it's just this fight between the two. And we have this thing called the microbiome in our stomach, and it's our body's natural pharmacy. And we have to take care of this microbiome. And I don't have all the time in the world to go into that, but I would highly suggest in your spare time, or just for fun, sometime researching more about that and what it does and how it's so important. But briefly, we just need to take care of our gut. This is where this all stems from. So how do we get our gut in line with telling our brain to feed us the good things? And it's starving of the really bad things that you're consuming. So let's say the people who are consuming too much sugar. For the next 3 days, if you want to really kick this in the butt and kick your cravings to the curb, starve yourself of all sugar for 3 days as best as you can. And it will not be easy by any means, because your brain is going to be telling you, I really want that sugar. I really want that chocolate bar. I really want that sugary coffee to start my morning. But you have to fight that and to get back into balance. And after those 3 days, it's going to get easier. And I would even recommend up to 10 days, and just not allowing that back in. Because again, if we're feeding our cravings, it's only going to be wanting more and more and more. Once we totally cut ourselves off and just continue to move forward, that's how we're going to get our body back into balance. And it's the same thing with salt. Maybe salt is your thing, doing that same thing. Aiding in that process, I would highly recommend a probiotic if you're not already on one. Having the good bacteria in our body is what we really need. So Activia yogurt is another one that I suggest. If you want, just a natural form of probiotic, but you can also get probiotics over the counter as well. So probiotics, looking at fiber as another, making sure that you're getting enough fiber. And some people say, I have fiber all the time, but I have all of these stomach issues. I would suggest making sure that you're drinking enough water, because water and fiber go hand in hand. You have to have the water to aid that fiber through your stomach. And speaking of water, how much water are we to consume every single day? Does anybody know how to calculate the water intake? Any guesses? Or maybe you've heard this before. And looking at the questions. So Dana, great question. Natural sugars? No. So you can have as many fruits as you want in the natural form. I'm talking about artificial sweeteners. Yep, no sweeteners for 3 days. That's what I would suggest. Half your body weight, correct. So take your weight and divide that in two, and that's how many ounces per day that you should be having as a minimum. If you have no water restrictions or any type of heart issues and you can have more than that, I would highly suggest that. So flushing your system out. So many people say, sometimes I get this frontal headache and I don't know where it comes from. Instead of popping a couple ibuprofen or Tylenol, flush yourself out with an 18-ounce, water, just flushing. Feeling sluggish in the afternoons, instead of grabbing a caffeine or going to that vending machine, having a water bottle next to you and seeing how you feel after drinking that water. So going back to the gut health, I just want to make sure that I covered all of my things. Small frequent meals, that's another thing. Some people are better off digesting small frequent meals instead of 3 main meals. I'm sure you can envision a time where you just stuffed yourself, like let's think of Thanksgiving, right? Greatest day on earth, just eating all of the good things. But then how do we feel at the end of the day? Like, I know that I am feeling super sluggish, super just not very good. And so our body is telling us it's just not made to digest that way. So some people work better with small frequent meals throughout the day. Eating half as much. Sometimes going out to eat, a good habit would be just cutting your meal in half right away, putting it in a to-go container. Our serving sizes are very, very large. And then chewing as much as twice the amount of time that you would normally have. Sometimes we just inhale food, whether it's a quick lunch break or a quick snack break, but instead of inhaling our food, taking that time to chew twice as long. Our mouth is our blender for our digestive system. So making sure that we're properly chewing and getting that in the great start of the digestive way. How do we calculate the number of teaspoons of sugar from a food label? Just really quick, you can jot this down. You take the grams times the number of servings and divide that by 4. So that would just be a really great way if you're into sugar and you want to just start calculating that a little bit closer, or for your kids, you take the grams times the number of servings and divide that by 4. So that would just be a way to start looking a little bit better. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about sugar and salt. So what do I say is some healthy options? I am not a diet fan. I never have been. I feel like diets fail people. And I also am very much concerned when people go in a way off the deep end direction and lose a bunch of weight or whatever it is their goal, and maybe they've gotten some products to speed that up along, but then I see them in a few months down the road and they've gained all that back. So small, consistent, daily changes in your diet are going to make the greater impact. Small weight loss, if weight loss is your goal, small weight loss over a course of small time is better than, hey, I lost 35 pounds in 30 days. Like, that's awesome. No, I'm not really for that, because I don't see that as a long-term thing. So I focus on whole food nutrition. And what do I mean by whole foods? I mean fresh fruits and vegetables, fresh foods, lean meats, legumes, whole grains, anything that has been very minimally processed. That's what I'm talking about, or not even processed at all. So whole food nutrition, focusing on that. And I recommend a program called the Shred 10. And this goes back to that microbiome and that gut and getting us healthy. And so for 10 days, every single month, resetting your body of whole foods, only eating whole foods for 10 days, no caffeine, no alcohol, only water, not eating past 6 or 7 p.m., depending on what your work schedule is, but allowing that intermittent fast. I believe that's a huge part in cutting your cravings as well. But allowing a 10 to 12 hour time frame where nothing is really being into your belly as far as any foods go. Water is fine, but really allowing a time to fast. Eliminating anti-inflammatory or eliminating inflammatory foods. We don't really look at that and we don't hear about that, but gluten, dairy, those can be inflammatory foods for people. Sugar, highly processed foods. That's where, 10 years ago, that's where I was, and just feeling all those aches and pains and feeling like, wow, is this the direction that I'm heading already? But when we can look at foods, this is the anti-inflammatory, the natural reducing way to reduce that. And drinking lots and lots of water. So that's kind of our Shred 10 program that we do and what I would recommend. And along with that, some other ideas, creating a food journal. If you have never done that, I'd highly suggest creating a little food journal. Even if it's not an actual journal, get something, an app on your phone or text yourself. What are you eating in the 5-day time frame? Sometimes we don't really even realize how much we're eating until we write it down. I would highly suggest doing that and just seeing where your cravings fall. Just making small, simple changes, looking at food labels. Dana, if you want to throw up that swap image, this is just a small thing. Maybe you want to take a screenshot of it, but it's some daily things that people consume, or very easy things that we can try. And I would just suggest doing this throughout your kitchen. This is just one little tool in my toolbox, but and realizing like peanut butter, yeah, it's great, but there's lots of sugar in that actually. Sodium is another big thing and just hidden in things. So just seeing if you can swap out things. And I always say start small. Don't overwhelm yourself by going home and just throwing everything out in your cupboard. That's not what I'm suggesting, because chances are you're going to go back to your same patterns. But just starting small, focusing on one thing. Maybe it's breakfast for you and your family. What are some healthier options that you can be doing instead of grabbing Pop-Tarts out the door or, high sugary cereals? Like just focusing small, simple things, and that's going to add up for you. So what else? Just kind of wrapping up here, I just have to say nothing gets me more excited than helping people with their health. Just talking with another family that just made some huge changes and their father had some heart issues going on. And sometimes that's what it takes for people to realize, like we only have one body, right? And we've only been given one body and we have it for the whole entire time of here on this earth. And we really need to take care of it better than anything and better than anyone, because if we're not taking care of ourselves, we cannot take care of our family. We can't function at work. Sometimes people take care of other things better than themselves. We don't even second guess oil changes in our car, right? We don't second guess checking our tires, checking the function of our motor and our engine. If we want our car to function, then we need to do those things. And it's the same exact thing with our bodies. So I would just highly encourage you, start small and seeing how it will impact. And Dina has a quick comment here. How about teens that are constantly starving and pretty picky? Do you do kid focused presentations? Oh, well, Dina, that's wonderful. I would love to do something like that. And getting myself into that, I probably could, because I can tell you, like, I deal with picky eaters too. I have 2 extreme picky eaters. One will be graduating here soon. And it's hard. It's really, really hard. And I guess I would find something that he likes and try to alternate it. Either, if he's got some protein that he likes, and trying to figure out different ways to cook it or make it. But that would definitely be something I need to look at or think about a little bit more. But I'm just scratching the surface here. I know this was a lot of information. My name and number are on that handout. If at any way that you would like some more focus or direction, I'm happy to help. So please feel free to reach out. But I'm just so thankful. Thank you for joining today. We just have a couple minutes. If there's any quick questions that you guys have, I'm happy to answer them the best that I can. Otherwise, we can wrap up as well.
Thank you so much, Chelsea.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. This was fun.
Anybody have any questions for Chelsea before I launch my little poll here? Can do that one. Oops. Let's see. Yeah, so Chelsea, Harper has really, he really wants to like buff up. You know how small he is. I mean, he's little, but he's doing all this working out and he's not doing anything about his nutrition. And, you know, honey, it's great that you're doing all this work, but it's not really, you know, you're kind of going against yourself, and he was not going to listen to me because I'm his mom.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I thought maybe.
Yeah, I'll have to think of, I will have to think of some things for him. Yes, and it's easier sometimes to listen to somebody from the outside, but yeah, definitely a protein source. He needs to be kind of feeding himself to.
Well, and he could eat an entire container of peanut butter. Like he loves
Wow.
peanut butter. I know. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he eats it
that's
because
great.
he'll say it's because it has protein in it, Mom. Well, yeah, but have you seen the amount of sugar that you just consumed when you ate that half a container of peanut butter?
I will have to think for him a little bit.
Yeah, if you have any ideas. I mean, Jalen's a super picky one. He won't, if it's green and it's a vegetable and he knows it's a vegetable, he is not going to touch it, period.
Yeah.
Cut it up, shred it up. I try and put it in stuff so he won't notice. No, he's a stinker. But Harper will at least try vegetables, but oh well. All right. Well, thank you so much, Chelsea.
You're welcome. Thank you again for having me.
Yep. Thanks. All right, everybody. We have one session left if you guys are getting on that one at 3:15. Have a great day.
Bye.